Okay, so, we love to dive into the really juicy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And this one, someone sent this in. It's a YouTube transcript, and it's called I Will Not Let You Fail. And just even reading the title,
You know, right?
got chills.
Yeah.
So let's dive into this because I think this is something that a lot of people can relate to, even if you're not like super religious.
Right.
It's like a very human
Yes.
message.
Yeah, it is.
So what is it about this that's so powerful? Like even just skimming it, I was like, whoa, there's like a lot here.
Well, I think the thing that really stood out to me was this intensity of the language.
Yes.
It's like deeply personal, and it speaks to that like really deep human need for reassurance and for hope, especially when we're struggling.
Yeah, and it's almost like, when you're going through something really tough, and you just need to hear like it's going to be okay.
Yes,
Like you're not alone in this.
absolutely.
And this message really like hits you over the head with that.
It does, and it does it in a way that's not just like you're loved. It's like
Right.
it describes it. Like one of the lines is like, "Behold the scars on my hands, everlasting symbols of my profound love for you." Like
Wow.
that's,
Yeah, it's not subtle.
No, it's not subtle at all, but it creates this feeling of like someone who understands your suffering firsthand.
Yeah.
Like they've been there.
It's like I've walked in your shoes. I get it.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's what I think is so powerful about it because
Oh.
it's not just like some distant, you know, being saying like, "Oh, everything's going to be fine." It's like, "No,
Yeah.
I understand your pain."
Yes, and it's interesting because it goes beyond just saying like your pain is valid.
Right.
It's like your tears are actually seeds
Yes.
that will sprout.
That will bring forth joy.
Like that's huge.
Yeah, that's a whole other level.
Right.
Because it's like, instead of just saying like, "Oh, your pain is okay."
Hmm.
It's like,
Yeah.
no, your pain has a purpose.
Yes.
Your pain is going to lead to something amazing.
It's like this whole reframing of suffering.
Yes. It's
Yeah.
not just like something you have to endure.
Exactly.
It's like, this is actually like you're planting seeds for like future happiness.
Yeah, and it's a call to action too. It's like don't waste your pain.
Right.
Like let it fuel you.
Let it transform you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So then how do you reconcile that with like the reality
Right.
of people's lives?
Yeah.
Because like that's beautiful and very poetic.
Yes.
But like, people are going through some really tough stuff.
Of course.
So how do you bridge that gap between this like beautiful message and like the sometimes really harsh realities?
Yeah, and that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Right.
Because it's easy to hear this message and be like, well, that's great, but like I'm still struggling.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to remember that this message may not be promising a life that's completely free from pain or from problems.
Right.
It's more about a shift in perspective, I think.
Okay.
It's about finding that inner strength and that hope.
So it's not like a magical fix it.
No. It's more about like an internal shift.
So it's like tapping into something within yourself.
Yes.
That allows you to then face those challenges.
Yes, and to find maybe even moments of joy within the journey.
Yeah, okay, so that makes me think about another part of this message, which is this idea of like going from struggle to triumph.
Right.
Like, it's not passive.
It's very active.
It's not just sit back and, wait for good things to happen.
Exactly.
It's like, no, you have to step into your own power.
Yes, you have to own it. And it's interesting because the speaker uses phrases like, your voice is powerful.
Ooh, I like that.
Capable of breaking chains and changing circumstances.
That's good.
Like, that's not passive.
No, it's not.
That's a call to action.
Okay, so then what does that look like practically?
Yeah.
Like, what does it mean to break chains and change circumstances?
That's where the personal reflection comes in, I think,
Okay.
because it's going to be different for everyone. Is it about challenging injustices in the world? Is it about overcoming your own personal limitations? Is it about, like, living authentically?
Yeah.
The message invites you to answer those questions for yourself.
So it's like, I'm here to guide and support you, but like, ultimately, you are the author of your own story.
Of your own story, exactly. And you don't have to write that story alone. You have this source of strength and this love to draw upon.
And that's like a constant refrain in this message.
Oh, absolutely.
It's like, I will not let you fail. You are never alone. I love you.
Over and over again.
It's like a mantra.
It is a mantra.
It's like, just keep repeating this to yourself.
And I think it speaks to something very human, too.
Right.
We crave that reassurance.
Especially when times are tough. Yeah. And I think when you're feeling lost and alone and you don't know where to turn or who to turn to, having that kind of message
Absolutely.
can be incredibly powerful.
It's a reminder that even in those moments when we feel most alone, We're never truly alone.
Right? There's something bigger than us.
Yes.
There's a force, a presence,
A love.
a love that's always there.
Always there.
Yeah. And I think that's something that a lot of people are searching for,
Absolutely.
whether they realize it or not.
Yes. And it's that search for meaning and for connection, I think,
Yes.
that really draws people to this kind of message.
And it's interesting because it's not just about comfort.
Right.
It's also about empowerment.
Yes.
It's like, yes, you're loved and supported, but also you are capable of amazing things.
Exactly. You are powerful.
Don't forget that.
Don't ever forget that.
You know, it's interesting, though, because it's like, on the one hand, it's saying, like, trust in something bigger than yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But then it's also like this really strong message of personal responsibility.
Right. It's like that balance, isn't it?
Yeah, like it's not enough to just like believe.
Yeah.
You have to like put in the work too.
Exactly. It's like that saying, pray as if everything depends on God, but work as if everything depends on you.
Ooh, I like that.
Right. Yeah.
It's that balance.
Okay. So then where does that play into this idea of like, we were talking about going from struggle to triumph.
Right.
And like actually take action. Like, what does that look like?
Well, I think a big part of it is about choosing our thoughts and our beliefs carefully.
Okay.
Because this text talks a lot about the power of our words.
Yes. About speaking our truth and about the importance of replacing negative thoughts with positive affirmations.
So it's like we're literally rewiring our brains.
Yes.
For like hope and resilience.
Exactly, because if we're constantly focusing on what we don't have,
right,
or the fear or the limitations, that's what we're going to experience.
Yeah, it's like that whole thing of like, you attract what you put out into the universe.
Exactly.
So if you're putting out like negativity and fear and doubt,
yes,
that's what you're going to get back.
That's what you're going to get back. But if you can shift that focus
right,
to love and abundance and possibility, that's when things start to change.
Yeah, it's like choosing to see the good, even when it's hard.
Even when it's really hard. And I think that's where the real work comes in.
Yeah, because it's easy to be positive when everything's going great.
Right.
But it's like when you're in the thick of it.
Yes.
That's when it's really challenging.
It's like you have to almost like fight for it sometimes.
Yeah, and I think that's where this message can be really helpful.
Right.
Because it's like a reminder that even when you don't feel it, you are still loved, you are still supported, and you are still capable of amazing things.
Then that you're not defined by your past.
Oh, that's huge.
Right. Because it's so easy to get caught up in those negative thought loops.
Yes.
To let those experiences define us.
Totally.
But this message reminds us that we have the power to choose a different ending.
Yeah. It's like you're not stuck.
You're not stuck.
Unless you choose to be.
Unless you choose to be. And I think that's really empowering.
It is. And there's that line in the transcript that really sticks out to me. It says, I will heal your wounds and alleviate the pain in your bones. And to me, that's not just about physical healing.
Right. It's about emotional and spiritual healing, too.
Exactly. It's like a whole body healing.
Yeah, it's a holistic healing.
And I think that's what a lot of people are searching for.
Absolutely.
Whether they realize it or not.
It's about recognizing that we are worthy of that healing.
Yeah.
That we are deserving of love and happiness.
And forgiveness.
And forgiveness, yes.
Like letting go of the past.
Letting go.
And stepping into the fullness of who you were meant to be.
Yes. And that can be a difficult process.
Oh, absolutely.
It takes courage to confront those old wounds.
Right.
To forgive ourselves and others. To believe that we are worthy.
It's like breaking free from those self-imposed prisons.
Yes.
Of guilt and regret and shame.
All of that baggage that we carry around.
Yeah, and this message is like, you don't have to carry that anymore.
You can put it down.
You can be free.
You can be free. And I think that's a really powerful message.
It is, and it's not just about, our own individual experience, because we're not islands.
They're not. We're all connected.
So how does this message then translate into, like, our relationships with others?
That's a great question, and I think it's something that we have to be really mindful of.
Okay.
Because it's easy to get so focused on our own individual growth and transformation that we forget that we're not alone in this.
Exactly.
We're all on this journey together.
And this message, while it's very much focused on that individual connection with a higher power,
right,
it also touches on the importance of our relationships with others.
Absolutely. Like there's that line about the speaker softening the hearts of loved ones.
Yes.
Shifting their thoughts and actions.
So it's like, even though the primary focus is on that one-on-one connection with the divine, our relationships with others still matter.
They do, and I think it's up to us to take that message and apply it to a broader context.
Okay.
How can we embody this message of love and hope and abundance in our interactions with others?
So it's like taking that inner transformation
Yes.
and letting it ripple outward,
Exactly.
impacting our families, our communities, and ultimately the world around us.
Beautifully said. It's about recognizing that we're all interconnected
Yes.
and that our actions, our words, our very energy has the power to impact the world.
It's about being a force for good,
Right.
a source of light and hope.
In a world that often feels very dark.
Yes, and it's about demonstrating our faith,
Yes.
not just through words, but through our actions,
Our compassion.
our generosity.
Our unwavering commitment to making a difference.
Yes, and I think that's where the real power of this message lies.
I agree.
It's not just about feeling good.
Right.
It's about doing good.
It's about living a life that reflects those values.
Exactly. And that brings us back to that idea of purpose.
Right.
Because we talked earlier about this concept of being chosen for a specific purpose.
Mm-hmm.
But what if we don't know what that purpose is?
That's a question that I think a lot of people struggle with because we all want to feel like our lives have meaning.
Yes.
Like we're here for a reason.
Like we're not just like random occurrences.
Exactly right. And sometimes that purpose isn't always clear.
Yeah, it's like we're fumbling around in the dark,
Yes.
trying to find the light switch.
Hoping that when we do, everything will suddenly make sense.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's like, how do we get to that point?
Well, I think that's where faith comes in.
Okay.
It's about trusting that even when we can't see the path ahead, we're being guided.
So it's not about having all the answers.
No.
It's about trusting the process.
Trusting the process exactly and surrendering our need to control everything.
Ooh, that's a tough one.
It is, isn't it?
Because our natural instinct is to try to control everything,
Of course.
to make things happen according to our timeline.
Right.
But this message is saying, like, what if you let go of that
What if you surrender to the unknown?
and just trust?
Just trust.
Yeah, easier said than done.
Much easier said than done, but I think that's where practices like prayer and meditation and mindfulness can be really helpful.
Okay, so it's about like creating that space.
Creating space for stillness, for reflection, for listening to that inner voice.
That often gets drowned out by the noise of everyday life.
Exactly, because often the answers we seek are already within us. We just need to create the space to hear them.
We need to like tune out the noise.
Tune out the noise and tune into that inner wisdom.
I like that.
Right.
Yeah.
It's about trusting that the path will be revealed one step at a time.
One step at a time. And that's a really powerful place to be.
It is. It's that space of trust, of surrender, of knowing that even when we can't see the way forward,
Yeah.
we're being guided, we're being supported, and we're being loved every step of the way.
And that's a really beautiful message.
It is. And you know, something else that strikes me about this
Yeah.
is the way it emphasizes the importance of not just receiving blessings, but also being a blessing to others.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not enough to just focus on our own growth and transformation.
Right.
Like we're called to share those blessings with the world.
Exactly. And it's not just about material giving either.
Right.
It's about sharing our time, our talents, our resources, our very presence with others.
So it's about recognizing that abundance that we were talking about earlier.
Yes.
It's not meant to be hoarded.
It's meant to be shared.
It's meant to flow.
It's about recognizing the interconnectedness of all things.
Right. And realizing that when we uplift others, we uplift ourselves as well.
Absolutely. It's about creating that ripple effect of love and compassion and generosity.
That has the power to transform the world.
Exactly.
It's a beautiful vision, isn't it?
It is. It's a world that I think we all long for.
A world where everyone has the opportunity to thrive and reach their full potential.
Exactly. And it starts with each of us
Right.
making a conscious choice to embody those qualities in our own lives.
To be kind, to be compassionate, to be generous, to be forgiving.
Yes, to be a force for good in the world.
Because even the smallest act of kindness can have a ripple effect.
Absolutely.
And those acts of kindness, when multiplied,
Yes,
have the power to change the world.
they really do.
So it's not about waiting for someone else to make a difference.
Right.
It's about recognizing that we each have that power within us.
And that our lives are not just about us. They're about something much bigger than ourselves.
And that's a really empowering thought.
It is. It's about recognizing that we're all in this together.
Yes.
And that the more we support and uplift each other, the brighter our collective future will be.
And that brings us back to that idea of love.
Yes.
Because this message is so infused with love.
It is. It's like the foundation of everything.
And it's not just about receiving love.
Right.
It's also about loving ourselves.
Absolutely, because we can't fully experience one without the other.
It's like they're two sides of the same coin.
Exactly.
And it makes me think about how much we're bombarded with messages
Yes.
that tell us we're not enough.
Constantly.
Not thin enough, not rich enough, not successful enough.
Not good enough.
Right. And it's so easy to internalize those messages.
It is. It's like we start to believe them.
Yeah. Yeah. And we start to doubt ourselves.
Yes. And that's when we start to disconnect from that source of love within.
Right. Because we're so focused on what we're not
Exactly.
instead of who we are.
And who we are is enough.
Yes. We are already whole and complete just as we are.
Just as we are.
And from that place of wholeness, we can then step into the fullness of who we're meant to be.
Exactly. And that's a beautiful thing to witness.
Yeah.
To see someone embracing their own worthiness, stepping into their power, and shining their light brightly into the world.
It's like giving ourselves permission to shine.
Yes.
And I think that's something that a lot of people are afraid to do.
They are, because they're afraid of being judged.
Yeah.
They're afraid of being rejected.
Or they're afraid of failing.
Yes, but what if we could let go of that fear?
Right. What if we could just say yes to ourselves?
Yes, to all of it.
To the good, the bad, the ugly.
The messy, the imperfect.
The whole shebang.
And just embrace it all.
Embrace it all, because that's what makes us human.
That's what makes us unique.
And that's what makes our stories worth telling.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like we're giving ourselves permission to be fully human.
Yes, exactly. And to embrace the journey with all of its ups and downs.
Because it's not always going to be sunshine and rainbows.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like this message acknowledges that there will be struggles,
Yeah.
but it also reminds us that we're not alone in those struggles.
And that we don't have to have all the answers.
Exactly. It's like that trust that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
That trust in something bigger than ourselves.
Okay, so then how does that play into this idea of like divine timing?
Ooh, yeah, that's a big one.
Because there's a lot in this message about like trusting the timing of things.
Yes, trusting that things will happen when they're meant to.
Even if it feels like we're waiting forever.
Right, and that's a tough one for a lot of us.
Oh yeah, especially in today's world.
Right, like we live in a world of instant gratification.
We want it, and we want it now.
Exactly, and this message is like, what if you just surrendered to the timing of the universe?
Okay, but how do you do that? Like, practically speaking, because it's like, my natural instinct is to like make things happen.
Right, we're like pushing and forcing and trying to control everything.
Exactly. So
Okay.
how do you let go of that need to control?
Well, I think it starts with recognizing that we're not really in control anyway. Like there's only so much we can do. And then there's this whole other realm of like the unknown.
Right, the things that are beyond our control.
Exactly. And it's about surrendering to that.
Surrendering to the unknown.
Surrendering to the mystery of it all.
Okay, but how do you actually do that? Because that's like a really scary thought for a lot of people.
It is, and I don't think there's any one right answer.
Okay.
But I think it starts with cultivating a sense of trust.
Trust in what?
Trust in yourself, trust in the universe, trust in something bigger than yourself, whatever that means for you.
So it's about like having faith.
Yes, having faith that even though you can't see the path ahead,
Right.
you're being guided.
That's a really beautiful thought.
It is, and it's a very comforting thought, too.
It is, because like you don't have to have it all figured out.
Exactly. You can just relax into the journey.
And relax into the journey. I like that.
Right. It's about finding that balance between effort and surrender.
Ooh, I like that too.
Right. It's not about being passive.
Right. It's not about just like sitting back and waiting for things to happen.
Exactly. It's about continuing to work toward your goals.
Right.
While also releasing the need to micromanage every step of the way.
So it's about like trusting the process.
Trusting the process, exactly, and trusting that even though you don't have all the answers,
Right.
you're still on the right track.
And that's a really empowering message, I think.
It is. It's about recognizing that you have everything you need within you
Yes.
to navigate whatever life throws your way.
And that no matter what happens,
yeah,
you're going to be okay.
you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
You're never truly alone.
And I think that's a really beautiful message to end on.
Me too.
So for anyone listening who's maybe going through a tough time right now,
Yeah.
just remember, you are loved, you are supported, and you have everything you need within you.
To create a life that is both meaningful and fulfilling.
Beautifully said. And on that note, that's a wrap for this deep dive.
Until next time.
Keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep diving deep.